I want to talk today about a very famous, sad occurrence in the history of our nation, and it really has to do with last week's parasha. And that's called the selling of yourself. And then we have to see what we could, if we could at all, learn something, anything from it. So the Torah tells us the following. I'm going to read the paragraph. And they took him to the pit, and the pit is empty, there's no water in the pit. וישבו לאכול לחם, ויישאו עיניהם, ויראו הנה ארוחת ישמעאלים באה מגלעד, וגמליהם נושאים נחאות וצורי ולוט, והולכים להוריד מצרימה. And they saw a convoy of Ishmaelim coming from Gilad. Gilad is at the northern Golan, and the camels are full with spices and so on, going to Egypt. ויאמר יהודה אל אחיו, מה בצע כי נהרוג את אחינו? He says, what should we kill our brother? וכיסינו את דמו, we're going to cover his blood. לכו נמכרהו לישמעאלים, וידנו לא תהיה בו. Let's sell him to the Ishmaelites, and we should not harm him in that way. כי אחינו בשרנו וישמעו אחיו. He's our flesh and blood, he's our brother, and his brothers listen to him. It's fine. ויעברו אנשים מדיינים, and Midianite people passed by, סוחרים, merchants. וימשכו ויעלו את יוסף מן הבור, וימכרו את יוסף לישמעאלים ב-20 כסף. And the Midianite came, and somehow Yosef came out of the pit, and they sold him to the Ishmaelim in 20 kasef. And then they brought it with Yosef Mitzrayma. And they brought Yosef to Egypt. Vayashev Reuven el Abor, and Reuben returned to the pit. Ve'ineh en Yosef babor, and Yosef is not there. Vayikra b'gadav, and he tore his clothes. Vayashev el Echav, and he went back to his brothers. Vayomer hayeled enenu, va'ani eni ba. The kid is gone, and what should I do? ויקחו את כותונת יוסף, וישחטו שרי רזין, ויטבלו את הכותונת בדם. They took Yosef, they took a kid, a baby goat, and they put his cloak in the blood, and they went to show their father. So the question is like this. First of all, famous questions. Who sold Yosef? We got used to the fact the brother sold Yosef. But from the pasuk, it doesn't seem like this. So when you read this pasuk, all right, there's two options for that. The first one is Rashi. Rashi bases his explanation based on the midrash that the brothers are those who took Yosef from the bor, vayimshechu, and he put in parentheses Rashi, Bnei Yaakov et Yosef min habo v'yimkeru laIshmaelim, and the Ishmaelites sold it to the Midianim, v'Midianim sold it to the Egyptians. But if you look at the pshat of the psukim, exactly how the verses are said, this is not what it says. I guess, I don't want to guess, I don't want to say it. But from the pshat of the psukim, it doesn't seem like this, because it says the following: "Vayavu anashim midyanim socharim," and the Midianites passed by. Vayimshechu, and they pulled Yosef, and they brought Yosef up from the pit, and they sold it to the Ishmaelim. According to Rashi, it doesn't make sense. And this is, by the way, how the Rashbam explains that. The Rashbam says, and I'm quoting, "Betoch shayu yoshvim le'echol lechem," since they were sitting down, they put him in a pit and they went to eat bread. And where were they? Verechukim hayu k'tzat min habor. They were far from the pit. Lebilti echol al adam, because they put it, they don't want to eat while the brother's in the pit, so they went far from it. Umamtinim hayu laishmaelim, and they were waiting for the Ishmaelites to come. Sherau, they saw them beforehand. Vekodem shebau Ishmaelim, and before the Ishmaelims arrived, Midianite convoy came by. And they saw Yosef in the bore, and they sold, the Midianites sold Yosef to the Ishmaelim. And we need to say, therefore, that the brothers did not know. And even though it says later on, Asher mechartem oti Mitzrayma, in which you sold me to Egypt, we have to say that they were only a grama. They were the initiators of the sale of Yosef to Mitzrayma. Since they were the initiators, the Peulah goes after them. The actions call upon them. And if we're going to continue with the mindset of the Rashbam, the whole story has takes a different light. And I gotta tell you, it makes more sense to me. It never agreed, even as a kid, it never agreed with me that the brothers sold him, because it just doesn't sit down. It doesn't fit. So what we're trying to do is we are trying to base what we see, the psukim in the Torah, based on midrashim, because maybe we feel a little bit uncomfortable about it, and we make a whole ganze ma'aseh. And I know what the Navi says and so on and so on, but think about what we are talking about, the grama. You initiated it, and we'll talk about this a little later. So therefore, where is Reuven coming? Right? Vayashav Reuven el Echav. And he went back to his brothers. From where did he go? So now we can understand. Vayashav Reuven el Abor, and he went back to the pit. And then he went back to his brothers. So he was with the brothers. He went to check Yosef in the pit. Yosef was not in the pit. And then he went back to his brothers. Elementary, Watson, is very simple. That's what happened. And why didn't the brothers answer Reuven that they sold Yosef? He says, where's the kid? Why didn't the brothers say, we sold him? They should have said, we sold him. They didn't. So it's very fine, because Reuven went to see what's going on with Yosef while they were eating. And he says, let's sell him. As Yehuda says, they were not going to harm him. But when he came, it was already too late. And Yosef was gone without their knowing where. So now we would make sense why they took his cloak and actually dipped it in the blood, right? As it says, they really thought that something happened to him. Maybe an animal, there were lions, by the way, at the time, and there were bears at the time. Not African lions. They had lions over there, and they had bears. Until today, there's some bears in certain areas of Lebanon and the Golan, the small brown bears, Syrian bears, that's called. Maybe an animal reached down and took him. And unless you say, he went alien like Elvis and all the other guys, But how did a guy disappear from the boar, from a pit? An animal took him. There's no way to do so. So, and only to prove to make their case, they said, we have to do it because there's no other sense. How are we going to explain? If we're going to tell our father, yes, Yosef was with us and disappeared, he's going to think we killed him, but we did not kill him. So it has to be an animal ate him. And later on, when all the sons and daughters came to share the pain with Yaakov and to sell him, and it says, why don't the brothers reveal at the time that he was sold to Egypt? When the father refused to go to Egypt, he says, let's go to Egypt. We sold him. He's there. You're so sad. Let's go get him from there. Why did they say it? Because they didn't sell him. So instead of trying to say, listen, maybe he's alive, maybe something happened, they tried to comfort him by telling him, listen, he was eaten alive. All of a sudden, all these things make sense. Of course, they bring us to the meeting of the brothers with Yosef in Mitzrayim. And one of the greatest wondering in Parashat Miketz, which is coming, that not even one of the brothers were able to recognize Yosef. They weren't able to recognize him whatsoever. Yosef recognized them, but they didn't recognize Yosef. How is it possible? And it is very clear. Because they were convinced that he's dead. Their mind just simply erased him as being alive. They were convinced that he's dead, and they could not even fathom that he's alive. And the guy who's standing in front of him said, "Brother, it's impossible. He's dead. We went to the pit. There's no Yosef there. He's gone." They were convinced he's dead. And he says, "B'itchaleno elenu velo shamanu." When the brothers were talking, we could understand now the guilt in which they're taking upon themselves. When Yosef was talking to them, very harshly, and the brothers were talking to each other, and the pasuk says, "Vayomru ish el achiv aval hashemim anachnu al achenu asher rainu sarat nafsho." We are guilty for what have happened to our brothers because we saw him in pain, in agony. He was begging to us, and we didn't hear him. Al ken, therefore, that hardship came upon us. Why are the brothers not blaming themselves for selling Yosef? Because we sold Yosef. They should have said, this whole hardship was because we sold Yosef to Egypt. Now we have to, midah keneged midah, now we have to suffer in Egypt. We didn't do anything. Most likely he didn't do anything. We sold him to Egypt. We're in Egypt. Midah keneged midah. Apparently, they can't put it together. Because they didn't sell him to Egypt. But as we said before, and they just put it into the pit. Therefore, most of the blame that they take was to the brother in agony. They were referring to the agony, to the hardship, not to actual being in Egypt. And then Yosef says, "Ki machor machartem oti hena." So therefore, that's the only kushiyah that is left when Yosef is saying, "You sold me here." And then it says, "V'atal te'atzvu v'al yechar beinechem." Don't be sad and don't be angry. "Ki mechartem oti hena," because you sold me here. "Ki lemichya shelachani Elohim lemanechem," because HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent me here for salvation. And that was all from Hashem. So it seems like they are the only one that sold them. There wasn't anybody else involved in the selling. So you could explain this in three different ways. The first one, for sure that the kavanah of Yosef is that the brothers did not sell him directly to Egypt. Why? Because even according to the Pshat, there was another mechira another seller before he came to Egypt. The brothers did not sell him to the Egyptians. Even if you go according to the other one, they sold it to the Ishmaelim, and the Ishmaelim sold it to the Midyanim, and they sold it to the Egyptians, or the other way around. But the brothers did not sell him directly to the Egyptians. They sold him to somebody else, and they kind of pushed it down. It was, but then we have to, of course, and then we have to say that exactly like the Rashbam says, שהגרמת מעשיהם סייעה במכירתו. They were the initiator, and their actions initiated the final situation of Yosef to being sold to Egypt. Since they initiated that, it's considered like they did it. The second one, it's very possible that Yosef thought that the brothers really sold him, but he did not know exactly who took him from the pit and who is selling him, because he thought that the brothers told the Midianites to take him to the pit and sell him, or it's very possible to explain that his eyes were covered and because they took his clothes off. So probably they cover his eyes, and for whatever reason he was not able to see the whole process of who sold him to who. His eyes were closed. They took his clothes off, tied his eyes, they put him into the pit. So he didn't sew. So that's another option. And it's very possible that Yosef was not really referring to the mechira, into the actual transaction, but just the fact that you put me to the pit, it's considered to be like you sold me. What happens when you sell somebody? You give up on him. You give up on me. You sold me. You give up on me.
Relinquish.
Huh?
Relinquishing.
So now, but still, everybody refers to, the Navi refers to, in Micha, in other places, we read in the Haftarah about the selling of Yosef. We sold Yosef, and we need to explain this. But let me tell you the following. First of all, how is it possible that this would happen to the brothers? I mean, yes, Yosef was sent, but ultimately it's also not fair to the brothers. The brothers put him in the pit, they didn't sell him. So let me explain to you something. That's why you always have to do good and not bad. And that is something very difficult for us. Very difficult for us to accept a certain faith and try to even change it in a good way, not in a bad way. For example, when Am Yisrael got the message that they're going to spin around in the desert for 40 years, some said, okay, let's go into the mountain and fight. And Moshe told them, don't. And they went and they got beaten up. They lost. There was no way that they can go, because the Kadosh Baruch Hu says, you're going to spin around for 40 years. Even today's politics. You never, for example, heard anything about Russia collusion with this administration or that administration until a day after the elections. Why? Because those who lost are not willing to accept the loss, so they try to do everything bad. However, those things will backfire at you. Anything bad that you do, you lost something. You lost. You were running against Yeshua, and you lost. So what are you going to do now? You're going to try to stab him and to bad-mouthing and so on and so forth, thinking that by doing all these things you're actually going to harm him, not knowing that actually is going to harm you at the end, not him. And why is this? When you decide to do something good, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is there with you. Metzaref HaKadosh Baruch Hu machshava tova lema'aseh tov. HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes even a good thought and he pairs it up with a good action, and it will be considered as if you did it. Even if you just thought so, it might possibly actually manifest itself into something positive because of the actions of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But when you decide to do something bad, you have to understand that as soon as you did it, and at the time Bnei Israel did not have a din of Jews, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu metzarev machshava ra lema'aseh ra. He takes a bad thought and he compares it up with a bad action. And when you decide to do bad, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you want to do bad, guess what, honey? You're on your own. Those things is I'm not a part of this. And it's completely out of control. And you cannot control the outcome of whatever it will be when you decide to do something bad. When you decide to do something good, you can stop at any time, or you are the master, you are the one in control of the situation. But when you do something bad, it's out of control. And you don't know how it's going to be. And in the end, it's going to be bad for you also. And you're the one who's going to be blamed and have fingers pointed at, because you're the one who initiated it. It is all because of you. Whether it was good later on turned up to be good or not, it is all because of you. Why? Because when you choose to do something bad, it's simply it's complete chaos, out of control, and you're dealing with forces that are bigger than you. You would never be able to control it, and you're going to get harmed. You're going to get hit. So let's say, for example, you want to change something. You find a good way to change it. Maybe Bnei Israel should have said, you know what, Ribbon Shalom, you're right, אנחנו מקבלים את זה עלינו, and we're going to be good tatales and so on and so forth. And who knows what HaKadosh Baruch Hu would do? I mean, HaKadosh Baruch Hu goes back on bad things that he so-called said upon us, but on good things he doesn't. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu could have reversed the decree of spending 40 years in the desert. If Am Yisrael would have ripped their clothes and make immediate tshuva, HaKadosh Baruch Hu might have changed his mind. When Bnei Israel heard, you see, the Meraglim came. And they spoke bad. It was out of their control. The whole nation went after them. We couldn't stop it. It's a snowball. You can't stop it. That's why you got to be very careful. Very careful not to be engaged in negative activities and negative talk and negative actions, because once you do so, it's out of control. It's out of control. You can't control it. Since you are the initiator, they're always going to come back to you. You want to have change. For example, let's say you change the elections. You lost the elections. Good. So go back and say, we wish the person who was elected all the very best. After all, we're all in the same pond together. Let's hope and wish him the very best. And hopefully it would lead the country to a good thing. You sit on the side, you be the gentleman, you'll be the one. And people will not say, oh, look at this, And you'll put it aside, go back to your drawing board, think about what caused us to lose the election, accept responsibility for your actions. After all, guess what? You lost the election. So go back to the drawing board, figure out what it was, try to inflict change, positive change. Next time the election comes around, because everybody stumbles one way or another, regardless if the media is with you or against you, everybody stumbles. And the people at the ballots are very cruel. They remember everything. So the person would stumble by himself. Mm-hmm. And then when he stumbles, you're right there in a position, in a good position. However, when you're bad, it becomes so ugly and negative. People say, look at this. A sore loser. We don't want to have an opinion like this. A miserable person. And eventually it makes the whole atmosphere that you live in a very bad atmosphere. And who wants to live in a place where there's a bad atmosphere? Or in a society or in a community? And it doesn't make a difference if it's election for a shul, or for election for a city, or for a country. Or if you're going on a shidduch and the person chose this one over you. Okay, so gesundheit, so the chose over here, goodbye. And I'm sure something better is coming along. But if you're going to say, she picked this guy over me, she picked this one, she is this, he is that, you make yourself look bad, and then nobody will say, this guy talks bad about people, nobody wants to deal with you. So that's something for you to remember, Rabotai. You see, I did not mention the word Lashon Hara, because it's then everything gets, this halacha. I'm talking to you about general concept. And it's not only in words, it's also in actions. So never be engaged in anything negative or in anything bad, because then it's going to be out of control. And when things are out of control, it's like a car. When a car goes out of control, you can't control it anymore. You usually end up with at least a broken bone, if not more. So that's exactly, to my very humble and insignificant opinion, based on the great Rashbam, that's exactly what happened with Yosef and the brothers. Have a good day.